The celebrations that center around the date of October 31st, whether they be Samhain, All Hallows Eve, or this year honoring the full moon that will be in the sky, they all tend to center on gathering together with friends, your coven, or just your community in general. This year, our celebrations may have to be modified, but that doesn't mean they need to be any less magical. Today on Gently Being, I'm sharing just 7 ideas that you may want to consider when you're thinking about how you want to honor October 31st. Hi, welcome to Gently Being. A prologue to the ideas is, if you can, try to make some space and some time to reflect on what October 31st means to you. What are the ideas and feelings that you associate with it? This will help you pick the rituals or activities that are best suited to what it is your intentions are for October 31st. For those who celebrate Samhain, October 31st is seen as a time when the veil between the world that we inhabit and that of the spiritual realm is seen to be at its thinnest. And that is why there is a focus on ancestors and maybe honoring and connecting with those who have moved beyond this physical realm that we are in. That may be something you want to consider if it fits within your faith and universal worldview. But it really can be anything that speaks to you for October 31st. So that's why I think it's really important to begin with thinking about, what does October 31st mean to you, instead of trying to force ideas onto October 31st that maybe really don't speak to you at this time. As I mentioned in the introduction, October 31st is the second full moon in October, and that's why my idea number 1 is to let out a howl at the moon. Okay, you don't necessarily have to howl if that's something that you're not comfortable with, but I recommend for anyone who really wants to connect with that full moon that's in the sky on October 31st to truly go outside and be with it in some way. Look at it if you're able to, if it's not a totally overcast night. Sing to it if that's what speaks to you. Say a prayer to it. Have a meditation for it. Smile at the moon. Kiss the moon if that's what's most comfortable for you. I personally do like the idea that since it's October 31st and we're just sort of getting in touch with ourselves, getting in touch maybe a little bit with those spaces that we don't always want to put light on, to allow ourselves to let that howl out at the moon. And it can be freeing and fun, and you can do it with others who are in your household or alone. But again, just try and figure out what speaks the most to you and how you would like to communicate with that second full moon that comes on October 31st. Another great thing to do is a releasing ritual. And what this is just giving yourself some time and space to think about things that you want to let go of, or release things that aren't serving you at this time anymore. You can really think of it as a spiritual pruning. This can just be one thing or many things, whatever speaks to you at this time. And the releasing ritual can be as simple as writing down the thing you want to release, or the couple of things, and folding it up and then just slowly ripping it and letting it go. If you're able to, you may want to again write out what it is you're releasing, fold it up, and in a very safe manner you may want to burn the piece of paper. Of course, do this safely. Make sure the paper is totally extinguished. Even have something to extinguish the fire on hand, because we always want to be very careful when dealing with fire. But that again is another way of releasing whatever it is in your life you do want to release at this time. For myself, I've been thinking about doing a release ritual on October 31st that has to deal with some of the things and ideas that I'm carrying that I just wish were different during COVID. So for instance, even the ideas that I usually have associated with October 31st, they may be bringing unnecessary suffering into my life because I just want things to be different than they are. And I think that I want to really reflect on what it is I can release, instead of wishing things were how they were a few years ago, or wishing that COVID was just gone like that. Focusing on what it is now and what Halloween could be, instead of these notions of how I think October 31st should be. Idea number 3, Ancestor Meal. So as I mentioned, for some, October 31st is a time when the veil between this world and the spiritual world is at its thinnest. Of course, we want to remember that there's never a total separation between, our physical world and our spiritual world. But still going on with this, the idea of the veil being thinner, that it being easier to feel and connect with those in the spiritual plane. An ancestor meal is one where you make a recipe that maybe one of your ancestors passed down to you, or a favorite dish or a favorite meal of someone that you love who is no longer with you in the physical realm. This is a way of honoring that individual or individuals. You can make a whole meal of it if you want. And just, feeling closer to them, feeling connected to them. And you may want to have a dedication before the meal that is for that ancestor, for that person that you are honoring with the meal. So this is a time that you may want to pull out your tarot cards if you have them, and you can even just pick one card and see what it says to you for this moment in your life. But it doesn't have to be tarot cards if you don't have tarot cards. One thing that sometimes I like to do is just randomly go on my bookshelf and pick out something that speaks to me just in that moment, open a random page, take your finger, go down it, and stop where you feel like you should stop, and just see what that line, what that part of that text is saying to you. And it may help you it may help provide you with something to meditate on during October 31st or even November as you're going forward. So idea number 4 with divination is doing what speaks to you at that time. So again, pulling out your tarot cards can be a really great thing to do, but if you don't have them, that's okay. You may think of something else that will allow you to, maybe see what the spiritual world is trying to tell you at this time. Idea number 5, creating silence so that you can listen. So this idea is really going into a quiet space if you can find one. And again, this may be something that you have to speak to the others that you live with in your household, to tell them that you're trying to find some time for quiet and ask them to respect that. And once you find this quiet space, just first grounding yourself, which you can do with either, bringing your awareness to your breath, or bringing your awareness to a prayer or meditation phrase that you may say in your mind silently. And once you feel yourself more grounded, just releasing the word or the phrase that you may have saying, and just allowing yourself to be truly quiet in a moment. Allowing some inner stillness, some inner silence into your life, to then open yourself up to listening to what it is that maybe your deepest self is telling you, or if you're someone whose faith believes in it, maybe you'll hear something that an ancestor or the divine is trying to communicate with you when you just allow yourself some time for stillness and silence. Idea number 6, a prayer. This prayer can be one that is to your ancestors or to loved ones that have passed on, or it can be a prayer to the divine, or it can just be a prayer that is sent out to your community, to the world. And this can be a prayer of what you want to say, what you want to wish for from your heart, from deep within you, what needs to be communicated. This can kind of tie in to the previous idea that after you have some time for some true stillness and silence, from that a prayer may generate from within you, and then you may want to move into silently saying to yourself, or writing down, or saying out loud this prayer for October 31st. So I just wanted to share an idea that broke away from the idea that any sort of worship or meditation or prayer has to be something that's physically still, because we can meditate, pray, worship with our bodies moving as well. And one of the beautiful ways to do that is to dance. And I thought that it would be fun to have just your own little individual bedroom dancing party. You may want to put on some, vintage Halloween tracks that speak to October 31st's themes, and just allow yourself to hear the music and move to the music. See how your body wants to relax and relate to the music. A lot of times when we first start to dance, sometimes we have notions of what dancing should look like because of what trends hot in movement. But maybe just try and let that go a little bit. You might want to shake off a little bit and then just listen to your music and just allow yourself to move and feel your body. And this is another time that maybe you want to pick a song that relates to someone that's no longer in your life and makes you feel like, they're there with you. You're dancing together. So idea number 7 is a bedroom dance party. So those were just some 7 ideas of how you may want to honor October 31st in the way that suits and speaks to you the best. I myself sort of take the time of October 31st all the way to November 2nd to be a time for, reflecting on our mortality, and for the, sharing thoughts and prayers for those who have passed on. And I sort of follow it through with All Saints Day, that's November 1st, and then All Souls Day, that's November 2nd. So I will be sharing some videos on those 2 days as well. So, just again, this is to share that you don't have to fit everything into one day. And that's why it's important to really think about, what does October 31st mean to you? And then create your rituals, create the ceremonies that most speak to what October 31st is for you. Thanks so much for tuning in to Gently Being. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel down below, and then hit the bell notification so you always know when there's a new episode. Once again, thanks so much for spending time with Gently Being.